Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Bromley and Chislehurst and, of course, the Chair of the Committee. I sit on the Justice Committee, I welcome the excellent points he's made to referring to the inquiry that we took on this subject. Now, I'm not speaking with that hat on, Madam Deputy Speaker, but I co-chair the all-party group on cycling, and we're working to shift the transport climate in this country so that more people more often feel safe and able to cycle as a normal means of transport. This is an objective the government has said they share because they recognise that having more people cycling improves health, reduces congestion, reduces pollution and costs. But I'm concerned that many speakers on the opposite benches have generally seemed to focus on car drivers and don't seem to appear to acknowledge that all of their constituents are pedestrians at times, many of their constituents cycle, and many don't drive at all. But anyway, I'm going to focus on my contribution on this debate on how those riding cycles and also other vulnerable road users not in a motor vehicle, such as pedestrians and motorcyclists, are affected by this bill. Now, I'm very pleased to hear what the Justice Justice Secretary said in his contribution earlier. And he indicated that the government has accepted the recommendation from the Justice Select Committee and many others to drop the proposal to increase the small claims track limit, the SCL, for personal injury cases from £1,000 to £5,000 for all road traffic collision claims from vulnerable road users. But I need some clarity on that from the Minister in his summing up, and I'll be listening to that very carefully. Firstly, does the government mean that vulnerable road users will be excluded from both the tariff and the small claims limit measures? Secondly, I'm looking for clarity about how the changes will happen. Will it be through amendments to the bill in committee or through statutory instruments? And I will therefore, notwithstanding my welcoming of the general principle of what the Justice Secretary said and my questions on the clarity on that, I will continue with my now somewhat revised speech so that my focus on and concern for vulnerable road users is on public record. Now, the government continues, it appears, to propose to increase the SCL to £5,000 for all road traffic collision claims, apart from vulnerable road users we hear tonight. Now, whilst public and employers' liability claims limits are proposed to be raised to £2,000. So there is still going to be inconsistency among claimants as to whether it's a personal injury claim or it's a public or employer liability claim. Without change, the bill would have affected approximately 70% of cyclist PI claims and a similar percentage of motorcyclist claims for general damages for pain, suffering and loss of amenity, as many of these, 70%, are under £5,000. Now, we can assume for pedestrians it's roughly the same figure, but we don't have those figures. So that is why I want to see exactly what the government means by removing vulnerable road users from the bill. Now, vulnerable road users are a very small percentage, both of all claims, but also of the total cost of all claims, so doing the right thing won't cost very much. I'm going to focus on just three issues. Firstly, the complexity of the vulnerable road user PI claims. The government repeatedly says that small claims are straightforward and can be achieved without professional support, but often in the case of road traffic collisions for cyclists, this is not the case. Many cyclist claims will involve complex arguments concerning what can appear to be conflicting highway code rules. There are 14 different rules on junction priority, for instance. Even where liability is accepted, contributing negligence arguments are common in courts. For example, regarding cyclist clothing, their position on the road, whether they had their lights on, etc. And particularly in pedestrian claims, issues are often raised either in terms of liability or contributing negligence regarding where the pedestrian crossed the road, subjective issues such as whether they took sufficient care for their own safety, etc., etc. Secondly, I wonder if one reason the government is now removing vulnerable road users from the changes is because these road users don't get whiplash injuries. And furthermore, they don't make fraudulent claims for whiplash injuries, purportedly one of the main reasons for this bill. And basically, that's because it's virtually impossible to get whiplash when on a bike or on foot. Those road users more generally tend to suffer from broken bones and punctured lungs. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, without these changes being offered today by the government, we would have had fewer victims of road traffic collisions who weren't travelling in a car making a claim. And this would have meant a win-win for insurance companies and for dangerous drivers. And this, Madam Deputy Speaker, is unacceptable. Now, whilst I'm pleased to hear the Justice Secretary has recognised the concerns of organisations representing vulnerable road users, i.e. cyclists, motorcyclists, pedestrians and so on, by taking them out of the SCL rate, I still have a concern about this bill that others on this side of the House have raised today. And to be honest, it would be fairer to have a uniform small claims limit for all personal injury cases, or or perhaps only slightly above the current £1,000 limit. This would achieve the Justice Secretary's aims of excluding vulnerable road users in a straightforward manner and would ensure fairness for all road users, regardless of their mode of transport.